Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we are here to discuss Season 6, Episode 16 of Charmed.
The Courtship of Wyatt's father.
Okay, Sorry, go on.
I feel like our listeners aren't even, other than like our parents, aren't even old enough to know what that is a reference to. What?
I don't know what that's a reference to.
So I'm right then.
Yeah. It is a reference that was entirely lost on me. I'm surprised it's a TV show. I assumed it was a book or something.
I mean, it's before my time as well. It's just that I watched a lot of Nick at Night.
I'm assuming a Who's the Boss situation.
The Courtship of Eddie's father is from 1969.
That is very much before your time. Although I guess Nick at Night was kind of before or after my time. I didn't really watch Nick at Night.
Oh my god, it was all I watched. Although this was never actually on Nick at Night, but I was still like,
aware.
Yes.
See, I was aware of old shows through DVDs because, when I was at the Nick at Night stage of my life, that was when DVDs were getting big. Watched a ton of Mary Tyler Moore, but just like the first 3 or 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. So will date me very specifically. I remember going to Walmart when I was younger and immediately heading to the DVD section to see if new seasons of, well, at the time it was Buffy. But new seasons of anything had dropped. That was my first thing. I remember I was looking for Farscape DVDs for you because we didn't have them when we were doing our Farscape.
And it still is shuffled all around different streaming services.
But I went to, back when we had Walmarts, I went to our local Walmart and I went to try to find their DVD section and they didn't have one. It was like a box.
Yeah, they don't really sell DVDs anymore.
Yeah. I used to have a bunch of really bad movies because I would just go to I think it was a $2 bin at my local Walmart and I'd just grab a bunch of DVDs so we'd have stuff to watch. It's why I watched The Mexican starring Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts. I saw it in theaters too, I think. Or the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. That's how I saw that.
I used to go to the big video store in town, and they had a bin of used DVDs, and they had a bunch of DVDs where it was like a single disc from a TV series box set. But, for whatever reason, someone had sold it and all the discs weren't in the box set. So I would go, and I basically went for fun, right? I had already seen all of Buffy, but I was collecting the Buffy DVDs that way because it was like an adventure.
You know what? They used to sell these Best of Friends DVDs, which would always piss me off because it's they hadn't released the full seasons on DVD yet, I don't think. So I go, and it would be yeah, do you want 4 random episodes from Season 3 of Friends? Yeah, that's what I want. 4 random-ass episodes from Season 3.
Okay, now I'm going to date myself, because as you know, I am 9 years older than you.
Yes,
but
I do know that.
My experience is going to Suncoast Motion Picture Store to buy a single episode of Star Trek on VHS. That's how I watch Star Trek, by saving up to buy a single episode on VHS.
Jeez, and I thought VHSs were just for TV pilots that never got picked up for series. Looking at you, Pride of the X-Men, which I did have at one point, which the animation in that is so good. It is bizarre that did not get picked up. I mean, it's X-Men. It was a hot property at the time.
Not as hot as it is now, I think.
I mean, I guess the comics were big. It was pre the big '90s boom.
Yeah.
But that's where inexplicably Australian Wolverine came from.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they cast Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, so that's a weird, little synchronous moment there.
All right. Before we pivot back into talking about Charmed.
They made him Australian because Australia was big at the time. There was a whole episode of The Simpsons about it. Okay, before we pivot back into Charmed.
I did bring up the Wikipedia article, so I guess I'm just going to correct myself and say that The Courtship of Eddie's Father was a novel in 1961 that was adopted into a movie in 1963 and then became a TV show in 1969.
Wow.
But I always just thought of it as a TV show. But apparently it was a book and then a movie and then a TV show.
It is a real book-ass title.
Yeah, it is.
So Charmed. I was not expecting to like this episode because it's and I'm putting quotes here, serious episode of Charmed, and I feel like Charmed is better when it's goofier. I'm genuinely excited to talk about Witch Wars, the reality TV demon episode of Charmed. But no, I actually like this episode a lot, which you could probably tell because we've been talking about something else for like 7 minutes.
I mean, I enjoyed it as well, although I have some things to say about time travel.
Okay. This is the thing that happens when you have time travel in a show that isn't just branching timelines. Like, I know you find it annoying when shows over-rely on branching timelines.
No, I don't.
You don't? I thought you didn't like how overused that became.
No, I don't have an issue with it, per se. No. I don't have a problem with branching timelines. I have a problem with internally inconsistent rules. If the rules are internally consistent, I'm okay with any kind of time travel you want. I might sarcastically say that when you have exponentially branching timelines, you're just taking the easy way out.
I mean, it is the easy way to get around, okay, but what if you kill your grandfather? Mm-hmm. Or, in Chris's case, what if you break up your parents before you're conceived?
Why is he only thinking about that now? And not when he broke them up?
Again, I'm going to give him way more credit than he deserves. I don't think that he necessarily thought that getting Leo a promotion would lead to them breaking up, because Leo's still around all the goddamn time. In fact, he seems to be around more in this timeline than he was when Chris was a kid.
You're right, that's true. Oh.
Although, is that weirder? Because Leo wouldn't have been an elder in that timeline, right? Would he? No, he might have still become an elder.
Eventually.
Oh, I was thinking to stop the Titans.
No, he definitely didn't become an elder to stop the Titans.
In Chris's timeline.
Yes.
Okay, so the Titans just killed everyone then?
Okay, so here's as long as we're talking about time travel.
The fact that they definitely had no idea what Chris's deal was, so we shouldn't think about the whole Titans thing too much.
Well, you are the one who suggested this, and I think this is true, that once Chris had Leo become an elder, and thus stop the Titans by turning the Charmed Ones into goddesses, just to recap what happened earlier this season, I think that changed Chris's timeline, thus changing the reason he traveled back in time.
Which is a cool idea.
Yes.
I'm not just saying that because I came up with it.
Yeah, Charmed didn't come up with it. It's a cool idea that you came up with, and I'm going to go ahead and go with that. Which would mean that in the timeline that this Chris is from, his dad did become an elder, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm also... I know the whole thing is, if Chris dies, then how will he come back in time? But I do think becoming a temporal ghost because you time aborted yourself is the sort of thing that could happen in a place where timelines don't branch. And
oh yeah, and I don't have a problem with that if that's what happened. My problem is, he says, I'm jumping ahead here, but once he starts to vanish because Leo and Piper aren't banging anymore, and he starts to vanish, he's like, oh no, I'm going to vanish, and then I'm not going to be able to come back in time and stop Wyatt from becoming evil. And it's like, okay, but then you also won't come back in time and stop this from happening, and then you will exist, and then you will come back in time, and we're just going to be trapped in a time loop.
Oh no, I'm assuming that, he will still have come back in time. Everything will still have happened, except he won't be born, and that's why he stops existing.
But he specifically says to Phoebe that he won't be able to come back and warn them about Wyatt becoming evil.
Oh, I have an explanation for that.
He has no idea what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, Chris is stupid.
Okay.
That's the explanation. It's not narratively satisfying, but I think it does work in the context of the show.
I mean, clearly he doesn't know how time travel works. Otherwise, he wouldn't have broken his parents up. That's just... I mean, I know I've said this in episodes past, but... honestly,
it's Time Travel 101.
Time Travel 101. Do not break up your parents before you are conceived.
Have you seen Back to the Future? Because literally everyone has seen Back to the Future.
In American Dad, where they do the time travel, and he's like, there's a scene where Stan is explaining in detail to his past self time travel, and his past self is like, oh, like Back to the Future? And he goes, oh yeah, Back to the Future's come out. Yeah, like Back to the Future.
That makes the whole thing so much easier, even though Stan did not know what Back to the Future was in the episode where he's rebuilding a DeLorean.
That's true, but...
I mean, the timeline was definitely altered in between those episodes. Or is this your theory about how every episode of American Dad exists in its own separate timeline?
Okay, so you know how I asked you if you saw what I was working on in the office?
Yes.
Um,
Are you working on a comprehensive timeline for American Dad?
I've been making a string board. Yeah, mapping the complex multiverse of American Dad.
I had a tweet about American Dad blow up, which is very weird. I muted it immediately because once something leaves my, orbit, I mute it. But I keep seeing people posting their favorite clips off of that tweet, which is nice. It's nice to see that tweet inspired people to... But the weird thing about American Dad is that, as my initial tweet said, there's a point where it just randomly becomes good and then it stays good. Even though it started, and some people are like, American Dad was always good. No, it wasn't. You don't remember how bad the first season was.
Okay.
Come on.
It's not good, but it's not...
Camp Rafugi.
It's not... That's actually in season 2. It's not season 1 of Parks and Rec.
Okay. But
There's not nothing there.
There's not nothing there, but you don't really get any of the good stuff until, I'm going to say, Stan of Arabia, which is like the end of season 2.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair to say that that's where it kind of starts picking up.
And even then, it's still very Family Guy clone-ish until about season 5 or 6, when they brought actual Family Guy back, and then they let American Dad start doing whatever. And even after that, it takes a few seasons for it to get really good and deeply weird.
Yeah, so I'm basically, even before the episode, that confirmed what I've been saying all along. I just love that I got confirmed in American Dad canon what I've been saying. I've been saying that the continuity errors in American Dad are not continuity errors, but rather that there are several different timelines of American Dad, and episodes are in different multiverses. And I've started mapping the multiverses, making connections that I can, so you can see these episodes are all in the same multiverse because of the connections between the episodes, or these episodes absolutely cannot be in the same universe because of things that happen in them, and I'm mapping the American Dad multiverse.
Okay, so the Jeff's hat thing is like a key part of this then.
The Jeff's hat thing is a key part, yeah. But then there's also little things like, the episode where Stan owns Morning Mimosa means that the episode where he and Roger get drunk and go to Morning Mimosa cannot be in the same multiverse because Stan's not running Morning Mimosa in that one.
Well, the same universe. They're part of the same multiverse.
Right, yes. Right. But they're not part of the same universe. Exactly.
It's kind of funny that they put Jeff Fisher in as, I'm assuming, a joke because he was just kind of a guy they knew, and he became one of the best characters in the show.
Oh, well, see, that's another one, right? Like, all the Jeff Lost in Space episodes, I assume, have to be part of the same one.
Yeah. I mean, they reference Jeff having the space adventures, and like that's a consistent thing. I think there's no timeline where Jeff did not go to and then come back from space, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. And that might be...
Like, doesn't Doctor Who have a word for that? Like a key moment in time or something? Where
Doctor Who has a word for it, but I don't remember what it is. But I think the phrase you're looking for is it's a canon event.
Yes.
From the Spider-Man. Yeah.
Okay, we should actually talk about this episode.
We haven't even started yet.
This is what happens when we like an episode. We go off on tears about other stuff. We really liked the Genie episode, and we spent so much time talking about other stuff. So, it is Wyatt's first birthday, and I guess Piper didn't end up sending him to magic school? Which, why not? These are apparently just kids from the regular-ass preschool she sent him to. Which, how? How is that a feasible thing that you did? The whole reason that magic school was introduced as a concept was because Wyatt couldn't be at a normal school without using his powers. He literally orbed when you were doing orientation.
I know, and even now, Leo says to her, he's like, I think that went well. You only had to freeze the room, like, once to keep everybody from realizing that your child is a witch.
The whole reason you introduced magic school was so that Wyatt could have a peer group that you didn't have to be all weird around.
I'm sorry, though, I'm too distracted by the giant bag of party favors that Piper is holding in front of her very much pregnant stomach.
Yeah, I was admiring them for not just doing the bag in front of it, but you know what? Here's a fine place for it. So the party is over. All of the babies are going home. But a woman and her husband take a little time to throw shade at Leo. They're like, Leo, it's nice to see you for once. We, the dads have a little dad group that they could, that they'd love to see you at if you aren't too busy being a shitty dad who's never here.
Well, I mean, as far as they know, he doesn't have a job, so why is he never there?
I mean, I'm curious as to how much they know what the deal is with Leo and Piper. Like, do they think they're divorced?
I think so. I mean, yeah, because remember she was dating the fireman, right?
Yeah.
So she's definitely telling people that she was divorced.
So Leo's like, Wyatt was really excited. He must have really enjoyed his first birthday party. And Piper's like, I think he was excited to see you. It would be nice if you were around more. Piper, you told him that you needed him to stay away so that you could focus on life without him. You can't just reverse it every time. Like, you can't just be like, actually, that thing I said before was wrong, and you're a bad person for listening to me.
No, Piper is just our contrarian on this show.
She's our Mary Margaret,
Yeah.
except I don't hate her. Even though, yes, Piper does the thing where she immediately turns on.
Yeah. Okay,
Speaking
now I'm going to talk about the sisters.
Okay.
So Phoebe and Paige got the birthday party ready, but they are in the know about who Chris is and the fact that Leo and Piper need to get it on immediately if Chris is going to be born. So their refreshments for the birthday party were strawberries and champagne and oysters because they thought they could just get Piper horny enough that she would bang Leo.
And Piper points out, so why were the refreshments at this party incredibly stereotypical aphrodisiacs? And Paige is like, maybe if there were more kids in the house, we would know that you shouldn't just serve aphrodisiacs at a child's birthday party. Also, oysters and small children seems like such a god-awful idea. I mean, I don't think I'd eat oysters, ever, because they seem gross. I'm not a seafood person. But, like, strawberries, fine. I mean, these kids are a little young, but, it's for the...
are fine.
Yeah, champagne at a child's birthday party.
That's weird.
That's weird. That's a weird thing. So, Paige goes to... as Paige leaves the room, Leo's like, she's acting weird, and Piper's like, yeah, it's probably because she dyed her hair again. Is this something Rose McGowan sprung on them?
Yeah.
Or, like...
It is. So Paige goes into the kitchen and, Phoebe's freaking out that Chris isn't going to be born. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like if she really cared, she could have taken care of it last week when she was Jeannie. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, she has her horrible little speech later, which we will get to.
Or, she could just tell them.
Yeah. I mean, she mentions, like, we can't just tell them because that'll give you performance anxiety. And
I guess it would. That does feel like a lot of pressure.
I'm sure that there is a potion in the book about, helping your husband maintain an erection, or your ex-husband or your ex-hand-fasting guy who you need to bone so future stuff happens.
Anyway, Phoebe's like, yeah, we need to help them find each other so that through the beauty of their love, Chris can come into existence. And Paige is like, yeah, they really need to bone. And Phoebe's like, oh no, that's so gross.
I mean, but it's true. They don't need to be in love.
Paige is like, how is that different from what you said? And I just wanted to point out this line. Because Phoebe says, what I said was Oprah, what you said is Jerry Springer.
That is a great line. Also, I don't remember what it's from. I think it might be from Mary Tyler Moore. No, it's not. But Mary Tyler Moore had a thing like that in the sex ed episode. The one where Bess, Mary Tyler Moore's landlady's daughter, asks her...
Phyllis.
Yes, Phyllis. Asks her about sex because her news program did a thing about it.
Uh-huh.
And she has to try to figure out how to explain sex to a child because Phyllis is like, yeah, I don't want to have this conversation with her, so you do it. And she has the speech about how love and sex can go hand in hand, but they don't need to, and just because someone loves you doesn't mean that you have to have sex with them.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and Rhoda's like, well, I don't know what you did for the kid, but did wonders for me. But yeah, this is, they don't need to be in love. They can just have sex. They don't even need to have sex. They just need Leo's sperm. Leo's ghost sperm.
How does that even... I'm thinking way too much about Leo's sperm right now. I feel like I'm Jerry Springer over here now. Okay. Whew. Moving on.
So Chris Orb's in and he's like, so have you gotten my parents to bone yet? And Phoebe's like, I'm sorry, but all Paige is giving me is this weak-ass shit. And Chris is like, okay, look, they need to have sex at some point today, or else I'm not going to come back from the future. Wyatt is definitely going to become evil, and,
He keeps saying that he did the math and it has to happen tonight, and I'm like, what kind of math did you do, Chris?
I thought you visited a bunch of soothsayers or something last episode, because that would be...
Well, he visited soothsayers to know that it had to happen this month. But then he did the math and he knows it has to happen today. And I'm like, are you sneaking in and taking Piper's temperature every morning? What?
What are we doing? So, Chris is like, can you just do a love potion? And Paige is like, you know what, fine. I was all consent, but you know what? We don't have time for that anymore. Fine. I'll do a love potion. But fortunately, this consent issue is sidestepped by a Darklighter attack. A Darklighter comes in. He's shooting Darklighter arrows all willy-nilly. They manage to drive him off. Chris gets a little injured. Phoebe tackles him out of the way, and, they scare off the Darklighter. And Chris is like, thank you for saving my life. For now. Which, a lot of this episode is Piper and Leo not having follow-up questions.
Well, I mean, they're more worried about Wyatt's, which is fair. I feel like if my kid was in the room when a Darklighter attacked, I wouldn't really be asking follow-up questions about what other people were saying in the room.
Yeah, fair.
I thought you were going to say that most of this episode is Chris whining about not existing anymore.
I mean... whining, sure, but you know what? I get it. They're doing a bunch of weird stuff when, we go to credits, and then there's the establishing shots of San Francisco, and they keep doing this thing where they pause and then speed up, and they pause and then speed up. Very Zack Snyder-y.
They've been doing shots like this for establishing shots all season.
But it's an overdrive in this one.
It doesn't stop being weird.
I guess it's because this episode's about time. Okay.
I don't think it is, though. I mean, I don't think that's... I think you're being very generous. I think they just thought they got something cool going.
We're back at the Manor, and Piper's like, well, at least the Darklighter waited until after the party to attack. They also collect some of his blood for a vanquishing potion, which... do you need a vanquishing potion for Darklighters? I don't think you do. Although I feel like traditionally you can kill them with their own arrows, even though that doesn't work in this episode.
I don't know. I could have looked it up, but I was like, no, I think that's right that you can't kill them with their own arrows. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris is like, so Piper, you and Leo and Wyatt should all go together up to Elderland and get to safety. And Leo's like, yeah, I can't take Piper there anymore. They told me not to bring her around anymore.
You know what? Fair.
So they're all going to go to magic school and huddle up, and basically Chris just wants them to be together.
There's a cute little bit where they all split off into, different groups to handle the situation, and Paige is like, look, Phoebe, you work on the Darklighter vanquishing potion, and I'm going to work on a love potion because I need to save one of my two favorite nephews. And she winks at Chris. It's very cute.
All right. Then we go down to Darklighter Land.
Okay.
I mean, it's fair, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one cave set they used for...
Everything.
But now there's a bunch of Darklighters. Crafting Darklighter arrows. That's a nice bit of world building.
Yeah, I assumed it was something you just kind of manifested out of your ass, like.
But apparently there's a whole ass forge and a bunch of Darklighters making arrows all the time.
So, yeah, the Darklighters' target is Leo. They're very specific about this. They're just trying to get Leo. They're one of the Darklighters has a very deep voice, but he's one of those like really thin guys with a deep voice you might recognize from like, Grease does it. They have the where does the pollen go? I know that's Grease too, but they give him one line. I'm like, they should have had that guy talk more. I think this is the only line he has in the episode, but he's got this like super deep voice. And I'm like, yeah, why not have that guy talk more? I know he doesn't look very menacing, but like it's charmed. None of their bad guys look particularly menacing.
It's true. Anyway, there's lots of hints this episode. There's lots of ominous stuff this episode where we learn that the Darklighters have been tasked to do this by some other force, some other entity has them going around trying to shoot Leo and definitely don't take out the sisters.
Yeah, so this is clearly more than just a normal Darklighter thing. Although I guess it would make sense if there was an Elder who's constantly going to Earth, that the Darklighters would be like, can we get that guy? We should probably focus on getting that guy.
It's funny you say that because they talk about how Wyatt is throwing off the balance basically just by existing. Mm-hmm. But Leo is throwing off the balance by being on Earth all the damn time.
Yeah. Elders are supposed to be up, in the clouds being mysterious and not all that helpful.
Yeah.
And he's, on Earth being minorly helpful. But we go from Darklighter Land where they establish that they are after Leo, and that's the main thing that, and they're, working for someone. And then we smash cut to Gideon lecturing a student.
Well, to be fair, she was using magic to throw books around. I mean, she was throwing them onto the shelves, but he's like, you have to be gentle with the books!
Yes, he has this speech. I like Gideon as a character. He would be so exhausting to have to deal with in real life. Because
oh my god, yes.
He's like, Sarah, these books are more than just paper and leather. There are history. There are philosophy. They are what give us power, and beyond power, purpose. As magical beings who are part of a community that supports each other. Because is that not the purpose of books? And Sarah's like, if I put them back the normal way, will you stop talking to me?
But, like, also, if they're magic, I feel like they should have some sort of natural protection.
Sarah should be able to fling those books as much as she wants.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you get paid more if you're a non-speaking extra who has a name? Because I noticed, I think her name might not be Sarah, but I did notice that she is credited as Sarah.
Okay, I don't want to act like I know all of the intricacies of the rules, but there is something called a featured extra, so I think, yes, you might get a pay bump, but I don't know if
just having a name would be enough, because I feel like she should have lines, right?
Well, so I do know that the rule is, like, you get a pay bump after 5 lines, so
she had no lines, but she was on screen for a while because Gideon has a whole ass speech he gives her about magic and responsibility and, the responsibility one has to the greater magical community.
What a nightmare to be trapped in a television show where you're an extra and you just have to listen to other characters monologue at you and you can't do anything to respond to them.
Like a less freaky version of Too Many Cooks. I'm sorry, we were just talking about Too Many Cooks.
We also just finished Agatha All Along, though, so I was thinking about WandaVision.
Yes. Okay, the finale of Agatha All Along has so many weird parallels to this episode, but it came out too recently for us to talk about any of it. I feel comfortable saying this, even though theoretically recency bias, but also I feel like Marvel is typically not that good, so I can say with some certainty that Agatha All Along is the best thing that the MCU has done, period.
Yeah.
I think that the first 7 episodes of WandaVision are stronger overall, but then it gets dragged down in the last few.
I mean, it's the first time in a long time that I haven't felt disappointed at the end of a Marvel property, so.
Yeah. Because, like, I think WandaVision was stronger, but it really falls on its ass in the last few.
Yeah.
Whereas this was good through the whole thing.
Mm-mm.
I know a lot of people were disappointed by the, and I'm putting this in finger quotes, twist, but, like...
I mean, we must be on different spaces on the internet, because I've not seen too many people disappointed in it.
I also see all of these people, I feel like I can talk about this because it's in basically the first episode. I read so many things where people are like, you know, oh, I'm so disappointed that they didn't, you know, explore Rio and Agatha's relationship. We never saw how they got together, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it does not need to hold your hand. It is sad that you think that the story needs to show you every part of their relationship for you to understand that they had a relationship and that it was important to these two characters. Like, normally I hate it when people are like, you know, the MCU has ruined people. They expect, you know, you expect your hand to be held the entire time. But this...
Rio literally says that Agatha is her scar.
And the thing where someone was like, I don't think that they were actually together because, like, you never see them together. You just see them, you know, later. So I think that it was just an obsession on Rio's part. And I'm like, oh my god. They literally tell you that they're exes. They could... I said, do you want the narrative to hold your hand? But it did, and it wasn't enough.
I mean, Agatha says, if you want a straight answer, ask a straight lady at one point.
Anyway, Agatha all along is very good. I cried so much during the first half of the last episode.
Oh, God. Somebody described it as being, like, essentially Up.
Yeah. It's Up if the opening scene from Up lasted for, like, 20 minutes and was very upfront about what was going to happen.
I also have seen a lot of people's reaction being like, I am sending Marvel my therapy bills.
Yeah, so this was the first good thing that Marvel's... I mean, I liked Marvels. I liked The Marvels. It was a good movie, but, like, I feel like Marvel generally is kind of lukewarm. Like, their good stuff is good.
But it's been oversaturated lately. But this was something so different that it was exciting.
I saw someone complaining that they didn't end with a giant scene because they're like, you know, the final fight between Agatha and Wanda was so cool. Why couldn't they have done that in the last episode of Agatha all along? And I was like, were we in different internets? Because I remember people being pissed that the last episode of WandaVision was just, you know, CGI puppets throwing CGI energy balls at each other.
I was angry about that. Like,
yeah, why wouldn't you use the TV gimmick in the last... They could have been bursting through different, like, genres. You could have had a musical episode. That would have been cool.
Honestly, stay tuned. Did the final battle where you're running through TV shows better than WandaVision?
Yeah.
I think the person who said that must be an MCU person who...
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of MCU people did not care for Agatha all
It
along.
wasn't for them!
Anyway, Leo orbs in, saving the student from having to listen to Gideon talk more about power and responsibility. Mm-hmm. And Gideon's like, hey, Leo... Because Leo explains, he's like, there's a dark lighter, and, you know, he's after me and maybe Wyatt, so I'm gonna leave Piper and Wyatt here where I go deal with this. And Gideon's like, or, hot alternate take, stop being on Earth all the goddamn time. Like, you are an elder, you have a job to do up there, and stop being around your family all the time. You made a sacrifice, and this isn't once upon a time. When you make a sacrifice, you actually have to follow through on it.
Leo's like, but then who will stop the Dark Lighter? And Gideon's like, I don't know, maybe the Charmed ones? Whose job it literally is?
Like, you are an elder now. That has responsibilities that come with it. You can't back out of this. And Leo's like, okay, hot alternate take. Fuck you. I'm gonna stay on Earth and protect my fucking son, you fucking fuck. And Gideon's like,
Elders. All these, because remember, Gideon's an elder too, so it's like, these young elders.
Okay, so at P3, Chris is trying to do some divination shit to What end, I have no idea. I do appreciate he's got like a compass and
he's doing an astrological chart.
I love practical magic. I love it when the show does this, but what information are you hoping to get out of this, Chris?
I mean, he's literally figuring out
the second his parents need to have sex.
Yeah. And here's what I am kind of getting at. It's like he's tracking the movements of the stars and being like, okay, this is who I am, so this is when my parents need to conceive me. But for that to work, we would have to assume that a pregnancy lasts exactly 9 months, not a second more, not a second less. And we know that's not true.
You know your parents have to have sex today. I don't think more information is... I don't think that if they have sex at the wrong time today, you're going to end up being a completely different person.
I think he's checking his math and hoping that it turns out that...
he was wrong and they have more time?
Yeah.
So whatever Chris is doing is interrupted by...
a long-running character that we've seen many, many times.
A friendly janitor who's just here to give Chris some down-to-earth, folksy, homespun wisdom about how youth is for the young and you need to enjoy the time you've got. And he's just so, you know, I can't think of a good word. I think folksy is the, like...
He is being folksy, homespun.
Homespun, yeah.
But the part that, like, weirds me out about this is how they're all acting like we've seen this character a million times before.
Yeah, because Chris is like, hey, Henry.
No, it's Clarence.
Oh my god, Clarence.
Yes.
Like the fucking angel from,
From It's a Wonderful Life, not to kind of spoil where we're going with this character, but yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Clarence, a guy I'm familiar with and on good terms with. Which, I mean, I guess he would have to be, because this guy's apparently the janitor. He's Scruffy the janitor. He's Scruffy the janitor from Futurama. He's always been there.
And are we going to talk about the weird racial component to this?
Okay, I feel like we should probably touch on it a little bit, because this whole character is basically that one bit in 30 Rock where Tracy Jordan's like, now I've played a wise black servant in a lot of white people movies.
I mean, the reason that's a joke on 30 Rock is because it's a weird, harmful trope. This, like, this character, this black character who exists just to be helpful to and inspire the white kids. And it's like, what are we doing? Yeah,
lots of shades of... Song of the South, which is based off of more old problematics. This is a man who exists to give Chris friendly advice, and he might not have the whole thing is just so. This is from the early 2000s. This was way too late to be doing this. Not that it was ever good. I feel like we said that last episode too when we were dealing with the weird race stuff, but.
I mean, I know you just said that the early 2000s was too late to be doing that. But yeah, I just had to Google what year The Legend of Bagger Vance came out. It was 2000.
Where Will Smith is a helpful black ghost who teaches a white guy to play golf. Is that the plot of that movie?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
Yeah. It's not fantastic. We're seeing less of it. There was a movie about it people got really mad at that I'm not going to say the title of because I don't feel like I can. The Secret Society of Magical... yeah.
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, because there was a lot of discourse around that one. Was Justice Smith in that?
I don't know.
He was so good in I saw the TV Glow.
Oh, yeah.
Although, that movie was so hard to watch. Like, I enjoyed it, but it is, like, legitimately a difficult movie to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it is so well done. It is so good. But, like, the whole time I was like, oh, this is a viscerally uncomfortable experience. But it's supposed to be.
Yeah. It achieved what it meant to achieve.
that ending, like...
I felt more hopeful at the ending than you did.
Yeah, no, I know it's theoretically, there's still time, but, like, also it felt really sudden.
Well, it felt inconclusive.
Yeah, it did. It felt very inconclusive.
But again, that was intentional.
Yes. Like...
But it left you feeling wrong-footed, because it was like... You wanted the characters to have a happy ending. You always want characters to have a happy ending.
Well, not even a happy ending. You wanted a resolution.
Yeah.
Like, even with horror movies, like, there's something comforting about a story ending.
Right. Well, I mean, you're supposed to feel as disrupted watching I Saw the TV Glow as the character in that movie is with the things that are happening to them. So it doesn't give you a resolution because it is supposed to feel to you like the message that that character is receiving. And so there's no conclusion for that character because the message is coming to you.
Isn't the director finishing it as like a series of short stories or something? Like,
it's a trilogy that is this movie, another movie that already exists, I forget what it's called, and then a novel that's coming out.
Feels weird to finish it with a novel, but I mean, I guess there's a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah.
Also, it felt weirdly like it was directed towards us, even though we're clearly not the target audience, just because of all the Buffy stuff.
Well, yes. I mean, it's a trans story, and I'm cis, but
We're both cis.
Yes, but also the time period that it is evoking is the time when I myself was a teenager, and I felt like a teenager again watching that. It was
my
God damn.
Like, and the dynamic between the two main characters, like, I had that friendship multiple times when I was a teenager.
I mean, we're both cis, but we're also both queer theater kids, so...
Yeah.
It wasn't for us, but it was a language we know.
Yes. So the wise janitor man is giving Chris some wise life advice about living life while you're young and don't worry about the future because the future isn't promised to anyone. And Chris is like, I know a little something more about the future than most people do. And the janitor's like, you need to get out of here. Get some sun. Live a little while you can.
Well, no, I like this because he tells Chris, live a little, and Chris says, I'm trying!
This is such a weird interaction, and honestly, this character has such little impact. It feels like you could cut both of his scenes and it would not change the narrative at all.
It does feel a little bit like the episode was 5 minutes short, so they had to write another scene. I don't think that's what was happening, but it does feel like that.
Meanwhile, Paige sucks at making potions. She's trying to make a love potion to, get Piper and Leo to bone, and she keeps fucking it up. And Phoebe has the worst speech ever.
Oh my god. Phoebe is terrible.
She's like, maybe you keep messing it up because Chris wasn't meant to exist. Maybe his entire purpose was to warn us about Wyatt and, he just doesn't belong. And we just have to face the facts that maybe Chris just needs to not be a person.
Only Phoebe would come up with the theory that maybe this person's existence only was there to give us a message, and now that we've got it, he should cease existing, which now that I say it out loud is like exactly what's happening with Clarence, except I don't feel like the show is complex enough to be drawing that parallel, but yeah.
So, unfortunately, she gave this whole speech about how maybe Chris needs to stop being such a goddamn baby about fading out of existence. She doesn't realize that Chris is standing directly behind her through this whole speech.
Oh no, he's behind me, isn't he?
And he kind of no-sells it. He's like, yeah, whatever. I do kind of feel like I'm existing less than I normally exist. And then Phoebe manages to successfully scry for the Darklighter. And she's like, well, try not to fade out of existence until we do this.
The thing about scrying for the Darklighter, though, was the scry starts going crazy!
There's so many Darklighters! So, they all go to the place where the Darklighters are. They drive there, which I kind of love. So they split into pairs, Paige and Phoebe, and Leo and Piper, which they do, to...
Yeah, they're like, go find some Darklighters, and maybe if some romance blooms. I'm making fun of it, but that's exactly what happens. Spoiler.
Okay, so this is an ambush. The Darklighters are, on the roof, and they're firing Darklighter arrows at them or whatever. I'm going to take a little break here. I really like Paige's outfit. It's pretty simple. It's basically just like a yellow sweatshirt.
It's a cardigan.
Phoebe is wearing the dumbest jacket ever.
It's so ugly. It has all of these little, like, pilly things on it.
Also, Leo's wearing a jeans jacket that appears to have been sewn together from 3 different jeans jackets.
As was the style at the time.
But we don't get much time to look at Leo's jeans jacket because a Darklighter knocks Phoebe off of the roof, which if only she had some sort of flying ability she could invoke here. But she honestly...
It's okay, she falls in trash.
Yes. And Piper and Leo get blorped into an alternate dimension by one of the Darklighters.
Okay. Meanwhile, because Phoebe is injured and Leo and Piper have disappeared, Paige hustles her into the car to race her to the hospital because they don't have... I was going to say their White Lighter to heal them, but I guess they don't have an Elder to heal them. And I want to say...
Why is Chris still their White Lighter?
Because the Elders want them to die.
Apparently.
Well, I mean... So they take off in the car, and the camera focuses on these 2 people who almost get hit by the car.
Yeah, I know they're just doing this to establish that the street is very busy and full of people, so it'll contrast with Leo and Piper on the ghostly plane. I guess they overused how much they could use the term astral plane, because they've used astral plane kind of a lot, but you couldn't have come up with something better than ghostly plane.
Okay, this wasn't bugging me until you said it, but now we have to talk about it.
Okay.
The astral plane we know is where you go when you die, because we saw that previously with Prue when she traveled to the astral plane. So we also know that that's where you go when you become a ghost.
Yeah, the episode with the horsemen of the apocalypse, where their 2 vanquishing spells got entangled and they ended up as spirits on the astral plane.
Exactly.
Also, I think the guy in Enter the Demon traveled through the astral plane because it was the place between life and death, and he was there so that he wouldn't die.
But we're being told that this is the ghostly plane, which is essentially the world layered over our world, except only dead people are here, and it's where you go essentially to ease you into death when you die. Like, when you get a new fish and you keep it in the bag, but you put it in the tank so it can slowly acclimate to the tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the astral plane, is that plastic... the ghostly plane is that plastic bag. But this has been the astral plane in previous episodes.
Again, in Enter the Demon, the whole thing was that it was the place between life and death.
Why did they make a new thing?
Yeah, I mean, you could have just used the astral plane again, or you could have come up with a different thing.
I mean, the reason they had to make it a new thing is because they had to make it explicitly a place you only go when you die, and not that you can just astral project into.
Also a place where you can die, because in the astral plane you explicitly can't die.
Because you're outside of your body, and your body is the thing that matters.
Or, I don't know, that one guy still had his body, but it's charmed, whatever. I'm just pissed that they couldn't think of anything better than the astral plane.
I know I just bitched about it, but I guess I'm just going to accept it and move on.
Yeah.
Alright, so they are on the ghostly plane now, and there's also a Darklighter there!
Yeah, nobody has any magic in the ghostly plane, but you know what still works? Arrows. So he's just regular ass hunting them, although, dude...
He's doing the persistence predator thing, where they're running from him and he's just walking after them.
Back in Darklighter Land, the main Darklighter guy, not the guy who's been, like, hunting Leo, but, like, his boss, I guess.
He's credited as the Darklighter Lieutenant.
Yes, the Darklighter Lieutenant is mad because Piper got blorped into the ghostly plane with Leo, and they're under express orders not to hurt the witches.
I do like that the one Darklighter he's yelling at is like, I had no choice. They were going to kill us. And the lieutenant's like, we don't care if you die. We explicitly told you when we sent you on this mission that you were cannon fodder.
You are very, very expendable. Come on.
What part of there's millions of us were just throwing you at them in a wave did you not understand about that?
At the hospital, again. Phoebe, as it turns out, is really good at being thrown off of roofs. Like, she got thrown a couple stories and she has a mild concussion.
I mean, they keep saying that, but I'm like, a concussion's a big deal. No matter what. Like, a concussion is bad. He's like, oh, you just have a concussion.
I've never been super clear on how concussions work. I know you're not supposed to fall asleep when you have one, but do they only last for a set period of time? I'm assuming you...
So it's basically from your brain getting knocked around inside your head, inside your skull.
Yeah.
And it needs to heal. It's not that you can't sleep. Yeah, you don't want to go to sleep immediately, but when you're healing from a concussion, it's actually a really weird thing where they don't want you to use your brain too much. Like, you have to do you have to do, like, non-mentally taxing things while your brain heals and just kind of mentally take it easy, which is a weird thing to think about, but it's what you have to do. And you essentially just have to do it until your brain heals, however long that takes.
I just know the thing where they, like, oh, you might have a concussion, we have to keep him awake. Yeah.
But that's just until the initial diagnosis.
But yes, Phoebe has a mild concussion, but other than that, she's totally fine.
The doctor wants to keep her there for observation, but she's like, nope, I'm a witch, I got shit to do, I'm gonna leave against medical advice.
I'm wearing a couch, or possibly very old chair.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the vibe of her outfit. I feel like her undershirt matches the jacket, but it's like a different, weird, old-timey flower pattern.
Yeah, they're just two clashing floral patterns. It's called power clashing. Oh, look, another 30 Rock reference.
Yes.
I'm never gonna let that go. I hope you know that.
Yes. So, they just... I don't get what Paige and like, I get that they can sense Piper's presence or whatever, because Piper goes to the hospital. For some reason, she doesn't understand the whole alternate dimension thing. Although, wouldn't that be the first thing you would think when you suddenly, hey, no one else exists? She's going to the hospital because she's like, if Phoebe fell off the roof and you weren't there to heal her, they would have taken her to the hospital. And Leo's like, Piper, no one else but us and a Darklighter exists right now. I feel like we should take care of that first before we worry about your sisters, who are clearly still in reality.
I would say, though, that Piper is correct, because the sisters can kind of sense each other, and more so when they're in proximity to each other, even if they're separated by a dimension. So, I don't know. I think Piper's right here. Gotta go to be where her sisters are.
They don't reference it here. I mean, they reference that the sisters can sense each other or whatever, but, like, other episodes of this show have mentioned the fact that the sisters share a psychic connection. It feels weird not to bring it up here.
No, I think they do. I mean, they don't explicitly say it. They don't hold our hand. But Phoebe does say that she knows Piper's not dead because she would have felt it.
Maybe that's an empathy thing.
Ugh.
That wasn't me mocking you. That was me mocking the concept of Phoebe's powers being useful in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I got it. Paige is...
I mean, I'd be more like Paige could sense her with White Lighter. I mean, if I were going for them using their powers and not the power of 3 connects them or whatever.
I think that only works if it's your charges, though, and they're not her charges.
Might as well be.
I know, right? But she can't... Paige is worried about Chris disappearing if Piper and Leo are dead. And Phoebe's like, who cares about Chris? She's really turned cold on Chris.
She really has. So, Leo is trying to convince Piper that they're definitely in an alternate dimension and that this is definitely part of the Darklighter's plan to kill probably mostly just Leo, but maybe also Piper.
Uh-huh. Okay, they mentioned, by the way, in the hospital that there's been, like, a bus accident or a train derailment or something to explain why there are hundreds of people in this hospital.
It's a bus accident.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But I guess everyone's very busy, but it's very weird that Phoebe and Paige are just sitting here watching the bus driver. They're standing in the middle of the hallway watching the bus driver die in front of them. I feel like some hospital staff should get them out of the way.
They're using paddles on him even though he's flatlining. That's not what you use paddles for.
It's a trope.
I know. I shouldn't complain about it.
So the bus driver, being temporarily dead, blorps into the ghostly plane, and Piper's like, Leo, who the fuck is that? And the guy's like, Leo, you must be an angel. Apropos of nothing.
Okay, so I shouldn't have said anything about the paddles because I actually like the way they handle this, where he, briefly died, sees Leo, and then comes back so that the sisters can hear him talking about Leo and thus, realize that they're trapped in a different plane. And I don't have a problem with him seeing Leo and knowing he's an angel, because I feel like if you are a ghost, you can inherently sense
white lighter-ness.
Yeah. So I don't actually have a problem with that part. And I guess I should give him a break on the using the paddles thing. I do think that it's going a little far with the empathy power, though, because the Dark Lighter shows up and shoots an arrow, and it hits Piper, and Phoebe feels it. She's like, oh, my empathy!
Everyone was paying too much attention to that dying guy. Focus on me!
She, throws herself against the wall. She's like, oh, no, I'm hurt!
So, Paige and Phoebe orb home, and Phoebe's like, I could sense Piper, she was standing next to me, and Paige is like, but she wasn't, and Phoebe's like, I could sense her with magic, because we're both witches.
Oh, when they get back to the manor, Chris is there, and they're like, oh, good, Chris, you're here, so that means they're not dead yet, and he's like, okay, that's good, but also, my hand is disappearing, Back to the Future.
I like how he, sad walks down the stairs with his hands in his pockets so he can do the reveal.
He is a Halliwell, so he does have to talk about his death or his non-life in the most dramatic way possible. Oh, I didn't say it last episode. I'm going to go ahead and say it now.
Yeah.
Last episode, I said that Chris was worried about getting unalived, and I know that that's, the internet word to get around algorithm filters because they think that people are going to get shadow banned if they say died. So I know that's kind of internet verbiage, but I actually meant literally unalived.
Yes.
Because he is no longer going to have lived. And I'm just clarifying that because I'm probably going to use it a couple more times in this episode.
I don't really love how algorithms are altering our language. Not to be, I don't know.
An old man yelling at clouds?
Yeah, but
No, I'm with you there.
I miss when people could just say words and not have to worry that the specific word use will get them deboosted and therefore unpersoned.
I mean, I accept that language evolves and changes, but yes, you are correct that
it should evolve naturally.
And not because of the constraints of capitalism.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
Okay, so Phoebe and Paige are being extra strength useless right now. They're like, we need to figure out what the deal, they finally work their way. Maybe since the guy died and then came back, why didn't they just use limbo? Phoebe says it right here. She's like, maybe the bus driver saw them in limbo, and the Dark Lighter put them in limbo, and it was a trap by the Dark Lighter.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to revoke my praising of them having him die in the hospital so that they could see that.
Yeah.
Only because it takes them so long to get there. They did it so artfully, and then it takes Phoebe and Paige an hour to figure it out.
So, on the ghostly plane, Leo is patching up Piper, and he says, good thing you're immune to Dark Lighter poison, which I thought Dark Lighter poison would kill anyone, but I guess not.
Yeah.
It's fine, whatever. So,
He does the sexy thing where he rips off a piece of his shirt to bandage her arm.
Yeah. I'd only ever kissed before.
This is the sexiest Brian Krause has been in a long time. Also, they're in P3. They're in the ghostly plane version of P3. And they are, in fact, going to realize that they still have feelings for each other and bone. And is it weird that they're conceiving Chris in the room where Chris lives?
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit.
Is that a huge deal? It's just...
Well, I think they're somewhere else when they actually get around to conceiving Chris, because Leo needs to be mortally wounded first. But it's going to be hard to talk about this, because it's a really good, well-written scene, which is just Piper and Leo talking about, you know, the situation they're in, and kind of talking about their feelings around it. And you just really get why they work as a couple here.
Uh-huh.
Like, you kind of forget because they spend so much time arguing over pointless bullshit. But when they put that aside and work together, yeah, they're a really good couple.
Yeah, there's just a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
In the course of their conversation, they realize that the portal to cross into the ghostly plane must be where the fight happened. That's why the Darklighters lured them there. And they need to go there. And they need to meet up with Phoebe and Paige there because they don't have powers on this plane.
Okay.
And they need to somehow communicate this to Phoebe and Paige.
This is the bit where I'm like, you established they had a psychic connection. You could just invoke that here, because Piper's like, she's like, I could feel them at the hospital. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, you have a psychic connection with your sisters. That's how you explain it.
Yeah, but the psychic connection isn't enough to, like, give street directions, which is what she needs to do. Although she
I mean, her whole thing was like, I don't know how, but I could sense them at the hospital. You have a psychic connection, that's how.
Oh, yeah. But
and Leo's like, well, far be it for me to question the power of three. Which also, yes, the power of three connects you. That's how you could sense them at the hospital.
Yeah. But now Piper needs to get a more complex message to them, which is we need to go back to that alleyway and you need to use your powers. But she says, you know what? We're ghosts. We're on the ghost plane. Let's go haunt them.
Well,
let's go haunt those bitches.
They're not going back to the alley. They're going back to the manor.
Well, because that's where they are.
Yeah, because Piper's like, well, look, they're going to be looking in the Book of Shadows for us. And Leo's like, the Darklighter probably knows that, right? And Piper's like, maybe we could just, like, close all of the windows and not get shot by arrows. I mean, it's siege warfare. You could just, like, put a table up against the window and he wouldn't have any way to shoot through.
But also, like, this is the house they live in. There could conceivably always be a Darklighter perched on the house across the street ready to shoot him. It's not a reason to not go back.
So, Chris is, like, a ghost now. He's like, translucent or whatever. And Clarence comes into the house and Chris tries hiding from him, which is very funny. He just kind of ducks behind a wall. And Clarence is like, Chris, I can see you. Also, I know what's up. Because I am the angel of death. And Chris is like, oh, great.
I think that's a nice use of the angel of death, which we've seen before.
He's an angel of death. He's not the guy that we saw. It's weird that they got the same guy for, like, the same guy who Prue had her little adventure with comes back later when Piper has her little death adventure.
Uh-huh.
They could have just found a new guy, like, in the, you know.
Well, he says he's basically a specialty angel of death because Chris's situation is weird. He's not dying, he's being unalived. And that's why...
Hi, I only deal with time travelers who accidentally time abort themselves.
Yeah, that's his deal. And he said that the reason he's been hanging around P3, working as a janitor, was specifically to befriend Chris so that he could make this transition easier for him.
I like that the other angel of death is just an asshole about it, because, you know, he doesn't have... He's got a lot of people he needs to work for. He can't artisan death people.
Yeah, this is a bespoke death. But I would say that this angel is being maybe not nice but not kind, because I feel like if he really wanted to help, he'd have shown up a little earlier and said, "Hey, Chris, stop fucking around with your parents' marriage before you're conceived."
So...
I'm just kidding. I know that you can't interfere.
So Paige and Phoebe have written a spell to communicate with Piper on the ghostly plane, and they read it out loud as Chris like runs into the room, and he's like, "Hey, there's an angel of death after me." They finish the spell, and Chris blorps into the ghostly plane. They're like, "Oh, I don't think we did that right, because it appears like we accidentally vaporized our nephew."
But conveniently, and honestly, you know what? This episode does really cleverly pull things together. You know what? I'm going to give this episode a lot of credit, because we already knew Chris was going to be fading out of existence, and now that he's fading in and out of existence, that means he's fading back and forth between the ghostly plane and the regular ass plane, and he's able to pass messages between Piper and Paige and Phoebe and let them know what they need to do to, rescue them.
Chris blorps. He's blorping back and forth, and Piper's like, "What do you mean you're ceasing?" Because Chris is like, "I'm ceasing to exist," and Piper's like, "What?" And Chris is like, "I don't have time for it. I can deliver messages. Talk."
Also, Piper, you know what? I'm just so irritated with everyone who doesn't understand time travel. Piper, you shouldn't need that explained to you. He's a time traveler. Clearly, he fucked up somewhere. You don't even need to know he's your son. You just need to know he fucked up, and now he's not going to exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's not... It's a common death of time travelers.
So, there are Darklighters in the house distracting Phoebe and Paige, while the Darklighter in the ghostly plane successfully shoots Leo, because don't stand near windows when a guy is trying to shoot you with arrows. Come on.
There's a lot of windows in this house.
Point.
But luckily it's a through and through, so,
It will kill him slowly.
Yes.
So, Chris is like, "Well, guess I'm gonna die," and he fades out of existence as Phoebe and Paige kill the Darklighters in the real world.
So everyone's gonna meet back up in the alley, and everyone's hoping that the other people are there because they can't see each other. Leo is slowly dying, as you said.
Yeah, Piper's like, "The arrow went straight through you. Maybe that means it won't kill you." And he's like, "No, it'll kill me slower, and, I can walk around and stuff," which normally, when you have a Darklighter thing, you're lying down, so...
And as you said, it's here that they have sex, not back at P3. But this is weird to me because...
They're having sex in an alley.
Well, he's dying. Like, this is a weird time to have sex.
When he's actively dying.
Yes, in the middle of an alley. I guess it's the ghostly plane, so it's not like anyone's going to walk in on you.
Yeah.
And if they do, they've got bigger problems because they're dead. But... you were worried about performance anxiety if you tell them, "Hey, you have to have sex right now so that you can conceive Chris." This is a moment when I would not be at peak performance.
Okay, Holler Mary Combs has been on not give a shit mode for the past several episodes, which I get. She's pregnant. This seems like it's a hard job to do, but she brings her fucking A game here. Like, do you know how hard it is to get me to care about the Piper and Leo relationship in season 6 of Charmed? But there's just this great line where, he's like, "Look, it's an ordeal. We'll get through it." And she's like, "All we do is get through ordeals." And you just feel how tired and sad she is. And... like you said, it is weird that they're having sex in an alley while he's dying, but honestly, I buy it, and the chemistry between the two is really solid here.
Yeah, like I said, it's the first time I've been attracted to Brian Krause in a while.
So, back in reality, the physical plane...
Yes, we discreetly fade to black so that they can bone.
Yes. So they can have the final bone, as it were. The... not petite mort.
Le Grand Mort.
Le Grand Mort. So, Paige and Phoebe are at magic school trying to get advice from Gideon.
They don't have a Whitelighter anymore. Chris disappeared from existence. Leo's on the deathly plane. This is the only other Whitelighter they know.
Luckily, Gideon happened to be right next to the exact book they need. Everything you wanted to know about portals but were too afraid to ask. Really? Was now the right time for that joke? I mean, I know he was close to it because
he was doing the portals with the Darklighters, yeah.
Yeah. But is now the best time for that joke?
I don't know, maybe they thought this episode needed a moment of levity.
So, post-coitally, Leo is trying to sense anyone, and Piper's like, should you be doing that right now? Shouldn't you be focusing on not actively dying?
Well, getting back to the normal plane is the only way he's gonna not die, so...
Yeah. And he's like, look, about what just happened, and she's like, I don't have any regrets. And he's like, good?
I don't either. That's not what I was gonna say.
But, like, I want you to know I don't have any expectations for our relationship going forward, assuming we both don't die imminently.
That was the joke I was gonna make, because he's like, I don't have any assumptions. And I'm like, of course not. You can't assume you're going to live for the next hour.
And, again, they have a really good discussion about their relationship, where, he's like, look, I'm sorry about what becoming an elder felt like it was the right thing to do at the time, and it felt like the only way I could keep you safe and the only way I could keep Wyatt safe. But I feel like at the end of the day, I am going to have to sacrifice my family in order to protect you. I can't be the elder I need to be to keep you safe if I'm keeping one foot in the mortal world.
I mean, it's a nice examination of the way he's being, pulled in opposite directions, because, as you said, he became an elder to protect Wyatt, but the reason he's not doing his all as an elder is because he wants to stay and protect Wyatt. Really, this comes down to him needing to have trust in the Charmed Ones to protect Wyatt, but I guess he knows them too well.
Yeah. So the Darklighter comes into the alley, and he's like, hey, buddy, I'm gonna kill you. And Leo's like, okay, but don't kill her. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna kill her.
But
like,
he says that he was ordered not to kill her, but that he's going to anyway because he's a Darklighter.
He also points out, yeah, if I kill the husband of a Charmed One, there's no way in hell she's not going to spend the rest of time hunting me down to torture me to death. So yes, I'm obviously going to kill her.
But this is important so that we know that they know that the Darklighters have been sent by someone else. But this confrontation is ended anyway when Paige and Phoebe manage to pull everyone out of the ghostly plane, and then the lieutenant shoots the Darklighter before he can reveal who they're working for.
Yeah. Chris blorps back into existence and he goes, woo! Not dead! And Paige and Phoebe both immediately clock what that means. They're like, did you too? And then Leo interrupts this awkward moment by falling over dead. Except not really. He's fine. They got him to Gideon or someone. One of the 10,000 White Lighters finally got off their asses to come heal him.
Well, no, nobody came to heal him. Paige had to orb him to White Lighter Land.
Jesus.
Okay, speaking of, I'm going to complain about this cut because it's really weird.
Yeah.
So they're like, Paige, orb him to White Lighter Land so that everything will be okay. And she grabs him and they orb away. And then the next shot we get is Leo standing on the Golden Gate Bridge and Gideon orbing in to talk to him. And this is like the next day. This time is supposed to have passed before this happens.
This is when you drop some of those shots of San Francisco.
Yeah, because of the orbing. And because we're orbing to the sky, and then the next shot is on top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, it's disconcerting. It's an editing error.
Yes. So Leo is standing very awkwardly on the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, and Gideon orbs in next to him, and he's like, so, buddy, you thought about maybe actually getting off your ass and doing your job? And Leo's like, yeah,
I guess.
I want to be like a present father to my kid and any future kids I may have conceived, but I guess I really have to just focus on my job if I want to keep my family safe. And Gideon's like, yeah, you do. Gideon has one of those, love and loss form you. Sometimes people leave you partway through the woods. Like, just because you can't be with your family physically doesn't mean that you're not going to be a part of your family. Like, you know, you are being called to a higher purpose, and yes, it sucks, but...
Leo, you made a sacrifice. You should go up to Elderland and watch over your family that way. Whatever you do, don't fall in with the most emo crowd ever.
Oh my god. Yeah, we're...
The avatars are coming.
So, Chris is back in his little back room where I guess he lives, and he's adjusting his shirt in his little mirror. Oh my god, Chris is such a teenager. I know he's not, he's in his 20s, but...
Yeah, he's kind of a teenager, though.
Yeah, Clarence comes in, and Chris is like, are you coming to Grim Reap me? And Clarence is like, not yet. Give it like 5 episodes.
Chris wants to know, if you were a Time Reaper this whole time, why were you giving this whole speech about how I should go out and live my life? And Clarence is like, in case you pulled it off and didn't die, I wanted to give you some good advice. Although I would argue that if Chris didn't pull it off, then go out and live your life is also good advice.
Yeah. Because the guy, he makes it very clear. Like, he's like, I'm not here to take you now, but nobody knows how much time they have left. Except for me, because I'm the angel of death. So go out there and have fun while you can, because you don't know how long you have to have fun.
The future is not promised to anyone, especially not you, time travel boy.
So Piper is wearing her dowdiest hairstyle while watching Wyatt sleep, because they need her to read Heavy Mom here.
I actually don't think it's that the hairstyle is dowdy. I think it's the weird ways they're shooting her to hide her pregnancy that's not doing her any favors.
So, it's
her sister sit her down to tell her that she's pregnant.
Yeah, I don't like Phoebe's outfit. I appreciate that they have her in something you might actually wear around the house, but, like, why is she dressed like, I don't know, a
She's
teenager?
dressed like the 4th of July.
It's so weird. She's wearing a, like, gray shirt that says Yankee Doodle on it, and then she's got, like, a red long sleeve t-shirt under it, which was a very...
As was the style at the time.
As was the style. Did you see that there's a Netflix show that's, like, very specific? It's, like, it takes place in 2003. I've seen it mostly because people keep circulating the opening clip from it and being like, this is not how people dressed in 2003. Like, you would not be in a high school with your midriff showing. They would throw you out.
Oh, yeah, they would. But, you know...
Normally people wouldn't bite on it, but if your whole concept is this show takes place in 2003, then people are going to pay attention if, you know...
Before we get too far adrift, though, don't forget, Phoebe also has a bright red flower in her hair.
Why? Yeah, it's such a bizarre choice. Paige looks nice, but she's just wearing, like, a green shirt. Anyway, they tell Piper that she's pregnant. Piper's like, I'm not pregnant. And they're like, yeah, Chris is your son from the future. Deal with it. Deal with that, Piper. And, yeah. Yeah, she's like, oh. And Phoebe's like, it's okay. You can just talk to Leo about it. And
He's here all the time anyway.
Yeah, and Piper's like, no, he's decided that he's going to actually take his job seriously for once.
And they're all like, okay, let's see how long that lasts.
And Chris comes into the room and he's like, hey, can we talk? And Piper's like, oh, the two of them have a very awkward moment where they're staring at each other. I feel like Chris should have been in the room when they sprung this on her. But, I don't know, would that have been better?
No, I think it was better they did it alone. Oh, there is one final scene where it's revealed to us, the audience, that Gideon was the one who was behind all of this, which we have not hidden the entire time, but I guess as a first-time viewer, it's not revealed until now at the very end, that Gideon was doing this because Wyatt threatens to throw off the balance of good and evil, so even though he is good, he's working with evil to, I don't know.
Yeah, the Dark Lighter Lieutenant's like, so why did you want us to kill your friend? And he's like, look, I didn't want you to kill my friend, necessarily. I just need him out of the way so that we can get rid of Wyatt, because Wyatt is a threat to the natural order of things. and he doesn't say it here, but it is the undercurrent of this. In a universe where good is preordained to win, I have a vested interest in maintaining the natural order.
Huh. I just want to say that Gideon is a messy bitch because as he could have just gotten the elders to tell Leo that he needs to stay in White Lighterland, but no, he had to start working with the Darklighters and set up a whole thing. He just wanted to be the little spy in his own little action movie.
Well, to quote, I think American Dad, because telling is better than showing, and I had a light schedule this week.
That's not from American Dad. That's
It's
from 30 Rock!
Yes.
Next week's episode is Hyde School Reunion.
Oh, barf. It's a Phoebe episode.
Phoebe's spell allows her wild teenage personality to take over.
Wait, I'm getting a premonition. Despite not remembering this episode very well, I'm willing to bet that reverting to her teenage self means baby voice.
Oh my god, yeah, it's not just a Phoebe episode, it's Phoebe being the most, so
And
that'll be fun to talk about.
yeah, I mean, we haven't, we talk about it less recently because I feel like Phoebe hasn't been in a thing where she's done baby voice in a while. I feel like she was really abusing it in season 5, and maybe someone had a production note to tell her to dial it back or something.
Or maybe Rose McGowan said something really mean to her, because I know she wrote something really mean about it in her memoir.
Just saying, Holly Marie Combs was not sweating anything, Rose McGowan said in the section about Charmed, the very brief section about Charmed. But
you know what? I appreciate it. Someday, I promise we're actually going to get around to talking about that book. But I will just throw out there, I appreciate that Rose McGowan was like, look, I did Charmed because I needed the health insurance, but if it was important to you, I love you, and I love that for you.
yeah, like, it was just a job for me, but I'm glad that it's something that people liked. All right, much like the Charmed ones, we have our own Power of 3. The first power in our pack is Premonition, who in this episode is, was, or will become famous. I had no one.
Yeah, no, like, the Darklighters were all procedural guys who have been on a bunch of things, but nothing.
Yeah, you've seen them questioned by someone on Law & Order, but, like...
Yeah, like, the one main one was, like, a dirty cop on 2 episodes of Elementary.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right, the second power in our pack is Time Freeze. What, if anything, specifically dated the episode? I feel like we can't really talk about fashion because that's, like, the obvious thing to go to. But Chris's outfits in this episode struck me as aggressively early 2000s. The thing where he was wearing a shirt that had, like, a British flag and then, like, a bunch of, like, weird naval flags across it. I'm like...
It's the kind of pop punk that was really popular at the time.
Oh, I was thinking that's, like, really early 2000s Abercrombie-ish.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they were going for more of a pop punk aesthetic with Chris, but I can see how Abercrombie took some of that styling now that you mention it.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way fashion evolves, huh?
That one scene from The Devil Wears Prada.
Exactly. I was actually going to say that the Jerry Springer reference dates it.
Oh, yeah, duh.
That's why I made a point of mentioning it when it happened. It was my time freeze.
Yeah. I wonder if kids know the context of Oprah from that, or do they just know Oprah from, doing heart-wrenching interviews with very famous people?
I feel like people still know who Oprah was.
No, I think they still know who Oprah, is, but they don't get the, it was the syrupy talk show where people felt feelings and stuff, and not that she was the woman who just interviewed very big celebrities in the fancy garden.
I don't know. People who are younger than us who listen to this, let us know.
Although, I mean, I guess her new thing is just sort of her old thing, but only with famous people.
Yeah.
It's her old show, except she only talks to people who are B-list or above celebrities. I don't know if we're ever going to have a, cultural touchstone celebrity like Oprah again.
We're not. We don't have a monoculture anymore.
Yeah, because, people say, well, everyone knows who Beyonce is, but it's like, yeah, but Beyonce doesn't have her own magazine. She doesn't have her own...
Also, I would say that Beyonce is... I mean, she came to prominence a decade ago, more than a decade ago. So She was
definitely when the monoculture was a thing.
Yeah.
Because, you see stuff and I'm like, I don't know who the Rizzler is.
Well, that's just because you're old.
Yeah, that is because I'm old and because I don't care for TikTok. Do you know who the Rizzler is through TikTok?
No. I don't know who the Rizzler is either. But I've heard about it a lot more because I'm on TikTok.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's...
I love TikTok. It's like my favorite social media.
I always go back to the one Twitter post where it's like, I'm over a certain age, which means all celebrity stuff sounds like, oh my god, Gazorkspo was spotted with Blorpy at Bev Naboo.
Listen, I'm on TikTok enough to know that as an elder millennial, I'm going to be cringe no matter what, and I no longer have a responsibility to try to understand what the kids are into.
Oh, yeah, God. I've been comfortable with never being cool since way, way back. Pretty much the second I got into comic books, I was like, that's never going to be a thing for me.
Right? I wasn't cool as a kid. I wasn't cool in high school, so I'm fine with not being cool now. You know when I was cool? I was cool for 2 weeks at theater camp, where I was the most popular kid at theater camp. It was an amazing experience, and then I had to go back to the real world.
Ugh, too much pressure. I wouldn't... I mean, I guess
It wasn't my intention going there. It just happened.
Yes. I was well-liked enough. We should save this for next episode, which is explicitly about high school.
Why are we talking about high school now?
I did not have a negative high school experience. I know a lot of people did, but I don't know. It happened, and then I never really thought about it after that. I know a lot of people get fixated on high school stuff, but...
I would say that I didn't have a high school experience. Like, I know that what I'm about to describe is a high school experience, but my whole high school experience focused around the drama club and the occasional classes that I had to go to around what I was doing with the drama club.
I mean...
Like, that was the part that mattered to me, and that was the focus of my whole high school existence, so...
I mean, not to immediately go back to I Saw the TV Glow, but high school was what happened around me watching episodes of Buffy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hung out with my friends. It wasn't a huge thing. I know a lot of people have huge things about high school, but I feel like that's only if your experience was either really good or really bad. I mean, I feel like I lost contact with all of my high school friends basically the second I went to college. I know you're friends with at least one of your high school friends. So.
Yeah, one of my high school friends is our child's godfather. Yeah.
So why don't we have that take us to the last power in our pack? Telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you? It's weird to actually have something for this.
I know, but I think we're gonna have the same thing, so you should go.
Yeah, it's Piper and Leo scenes in the ghostly plane.
Yeah.
Particularly the bit where they're, like, after they have sex, where they're kind of... No, you know what? Actually, the bit before they have sex, where Piper's talking about how, like, their entire relationship has just been about getting through things, where she's just like, it's been ordeal after ordeal, and it feels like we never just had time.
Well, to me, it feels like they're so mean to each other so often that it was just nice to see two people who seem to be in love with each other and understand why it is that they would defy heaven and earth to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it feels like we haven't, since the elders decided they were cool being together. I mean, okay, so I'm going to go off on a brief personal tangent. Well, we're so close to the end.
We're so close.
But I had a major dental procedure, which took so long to do.
Uh-huh.
And worrying about it kind of became the background noise of my life.
Yes.
And then when it was finally done, I became hyper aware of every single thing that was happening with my teeth to a offsetting degree.
Uh-huh.
Like... Because I feel like once the big thing I was worried about got taken care of, I was used to having this background stress about it.
Yeah, your body didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and I feel like them having the big thing that was the elders forbidding their relationship was fighting against that, was sort of the background noise of their early relationship. So once they were rid of it, they needed to have that with something, and for some reason they focused on each other. And that's why they were just fighting constantly for no reason, because before they were fighting against, you know, the elders. And once that wasn't a thing, what's left?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I think that'll about do it.
I think that will do it. Our show is partially listener supported. If you want to be one of those supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, Anthony, Daniel, and Hippolyta.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode, or any episode of any television show, you can email us at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the Halliwell Manor.